How's that sound? Oh, so we can start this over again. I'm sorry, I had it on mute. So in this time, we are getting a lot of spam messages. We're getting a lot of people sending us messages, emails. We're seeing a lot of advertisements in reference to the elections of 2024. Also getting a ton of people who say they're going to wait until the election is over because they don't know what's going to happen before they purchase a home. So this is not a political this is not a political YouTube channel. My thoughts are my thoughts, and I won't try to push my thoughts on anyone. However, I will give you hard fact data to let you know how the market typically goes. So whether it's President Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, neither one controls the real estate market. They don't control whether sellers have the ability to sell their house for a specific rate. I mean, price. They have no bearing on what the mortgage interest rates are because even though the Federal Reserve is a federal entity, the Federal Reserve isn't controlled by the President of the United States, nor are mortgage interest rates controlled by the Federal Reserve. So those don't go together, right? The other thing is, over the last 8 elections, interest rates have increased and housing prices have increased over the course of the election. So when the president comes in or the acting president comes in, you got to remember they may be elected in November. However, they don't become president until January of the following of that next year. So they don't have any control over the particular real estate market, right? And during this time, it's also a peak season where people start to slow down looking at houses, typically because they think it's a slowdown in the market because it's holiday time. So all of those things coming together, it's going to have a huge effect on the real estate market. I truly believe that we're going in the right direction in terms of inflation coming down. Interest rates had come down some over the last 2 weeks, and they went back up after the Federal Reserve announced that they were going to decrease interest rates. So those interest rates are not controlled by mortgages; they are controlled by those interest rates control personal loans, student loan debt, home equity lines of credit, personal, personal credit card debt as well, right? It doesn't control the movements. Um, with that being said, if you're on the fence and you're waiting until there's a new president elected before you decide you want to purchase a home, I think you're wasting your time. I think you're wasting the time. Typically, interest rates go up, housing prices go up, and you typically see like a 15% increase in the interest rates. Along with that, not 15% interest rates, but 15% increase in housing prices. With that being said, right now we're starting in different pockets of the country, we're starting to see inventory stay on the market even longer, and but we're also seeing more inventory come on the market. That's where people are looking to make a move, begin to sell, and also houses aren't moving because people like sellers are looking to put their house on the market to prepare to sell. Buyers are stagnated and waiting because they don't know what's going to happen after November. With that being said, what you can do to prepare is to begin to work on your budget. If your goal is to become a homeowner, and I'm not here to say, hey, buy a house before the market changes, buy a house after. What I am telling you is, hey, whoever becomes president does not change the house. And you can Google it, you can look it up. They don't change what interest rates are because they're president, and they don't change whether a seller's going to sell a house for more or less. They just have no control of it, right? So what you can do is you can begin to start preparing for home ownership if you're going to wait. Work on a budget. Work on a budget to make sure you have money set aside for save. You need to also take a look at, okay, what are we spending? Are we spending too many funds on food? Are we spending too many funds on entertainment? What do we need to cut back on in order for us to be able to save more money so we have money for a down payment? We have money for clothing costs. What are things that we can do to get more money in? Do we pick up a second job and help us pay down on debt? Do we, contribute more to our 401k so we can help utilize that when we go into it? There's a lot of things that could happen. Now, one thing that Vice President Harris says that she's looking to implement is a $25,000 credit to first-time home buyers for purchasing a home, and that's great. However, we also had that same thing 4 years ago when President Biden wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to implement maybe a first generation credit for first time home buyers. And here we are 4 years later, and he can't get it passed. Not because he's not trying to get it passed. You got to understand the person who is president of the United States has some power. However, Senate and Congress have to agree and pass those laws as well. So they have to be voted on. And what President Biden was unable to do was he was unable to get the Senate and Congress to be able to agree on whether they would have the ability to allow him to have that tax credit. It never was passed. Vice President Kamala Harris has instituted that she'd like to do the same thing, but if she doesn't have the House or the Senate to back her and be able to, or have enough people to be able to back and pass that tax credit, then she's going to be stuck in the same position of President, whoever president or President Harris or Vice President Harris at the time, to be able to have that credit to go to buyers. So, with that being said, like, don't depend on the government to give you any type of credit. It's going to be very tough for whoever's in office to pass, whether it's, former President Trump or Vice President Harris, whatever rules or laws that they're trying to implement on housing is going, so they're vastly different in what they're looking to do. President Trump has not mentioned much about housing and affordable housing. Vice President Harris has mentioned about housing and her objective, but it's nothing that's going to happen instantly. Do you want to wait for a $25,000 credit that may never come? And then when you finally figure out, hey, that credit isn't coming, that I am going to now be looking at either slightly higher interest rates, and let's say interest rates don't go higher, let's say they do go lower, let's say rates do go lower based off of what we're going through right now and things change in the economy. However, if interest rates go lower, housing prices could potentially continue to go up. Or it just may not change, meaning it may not, housing, what your housing is does not affect what you're willing to pay. So if you qualify for a $500,000 house, but you're not willing to pay, and let's say it's a $4,000 a month mortgage, then you're not going to get a $500,000. So what your ability to pay and qualify for does not have anything to do with whether housing prices somewhat increase or decrease. What I will say is there are programs available now that can give you some sort of credit. It's not going to be necessarily be a grant, but it's something in the form of a down payment assistance. In different parts of the country, different cities, different municipalities, there are programs here to aid you in helping you get money to help you with the down payment to get you into home ownership. And then in terms of interest rates and interest rates are what they are right now. And if you wait until you look for them to get lower, there's never been a time where interest rates are super low and housing prices are low, right? They do have an effect on what your monthly payment is. However, no one knows how to be able to time that out properly. There's other two key factors in your payment that neither candidate is going to have the ability to change, which is homeowners insurance, which is currently increasing. And I think we will see more increases in homeowners insurance because of the last 2 or 3 tornado hurricanes that we've seen, right? So there's going to be increases in different parts of the country. There's going to be increases because there's more accidents. There's going to be increases because more people are calling and getting claims on their insurance. And if they're being paid out, the insurance company has to get those funds from somewhere else, right? So with that, you still have property taxes. So we've been in a 4-year, 5-year stretch where we've constantly seen housing prices increase. As housing prices increase, property taxes are continuing to increase. So as property taxes are continue to increase, that means your housing price, your house payment will increase because your property taxes now went from, let's say, $1,200 to $1,500. Yes, it's just a $300 a year change. However, that changes, $50 a month here and there. With the increase of your homeowner's insurance, that could potentially take, let's say, a $2,000 a month mortgage to, let's say, 2,200, depending on what your increase of your homeowner's insurance is. These are things that have not been addressed by neither candidate. These are things that neither candidate controls. And unless there's a credit that's going to be given on the back end, housing prices and mortgage payments are going to continue to increase unless you put together a plan or get with a lender who can give you a plan on how to keep that payment low. Now, there's a lot of people out here saying, hey, well, they're just trying to get you to buy a house. That's true. We're trying to get you to become homeowners and have the ability to change things in your family's life, but we also are only going to qualify you for what you can afford. And what you can afford and what you're eligible for are two different things. You don't qualify for a $500,000 house on paper. However, we go off of gross income. You see your net income. Your gross income is whatever you make less taxes, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one it is. Then you've got health insurance that you pay for, as well as any type of 401ks. Let's say you pay child support, or there's a ton of bills that you have outside of that. So yes, it's great to be able to qualify for a $500,000 house. However, if you can't afford it, I suggest you don't buy. I think you should get into something and work your way up as you go along. And that's one of the things that we also lead back to candidates, affordable housing. One of the candidates has said, hey, we're going to try and build 3 million affordable housing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be houses for you to buy as homes. Affordable housing is also rentals, apartment complexes and buildings, right? And those are rentals. Affordable housing is not anything they can control either. Let me give you an example. You can say you're going to do affordable housing, but you can't control the seller selling their land. Unless you give the seller some sort of credit for selling their land, then they're going to sell it at a price, right? Where they can make a profit. Once the seller says hit their land, then you have the builder. The builder is going to buy the land at the price that the seller particularly wants that they agree to, and then the builder is going to put their profit on their new construction home that they're going to build. So there's a profit that they want as well. The government doesn't control or can't control what that builder wants to sell that house for after they've completed, the house for as a spec house to sell. Then you have the buyer. The buyer is going to come and buy it. So now there's been two profits set on top of that land. There's the profit that the seller sold it for, where he or she initially held the land. There's the builder who built the house and put his or her cost into it. And now they have a profit on top. And the end user, who's the buyer, is the one who has the buys it at the higher price. Now, and the only way that any of that could be changed or the government could control it is if they give some sort of seller's credit to whoever or tax credit. But right now, people aren't looking for tax credits when they sell stuff. They want the profit so they can do what they want to do with money. um, this is something that can continue to go on. And everything, ever since I've been around, even as a kid, there's always been a battle for what affordable housing is. What is affordable housing? Nobody has clearly defined what affordable housing is. Affordability to me is different than what it could be to the next person. And that's because everyone's income is different, their bills are different, their debts are different, the different things that they have are totally different. And you're talking about different parts of the country. If you're in Florida and you're paying $3,000 in rent, that could be extremely high to you. $3,000 in rent in New York, in California could be cheap. That could be cheap rent. So, what affordability is based upon where you live at, your demographic, and also your financial situation. If you're currently watching this video, we're discussing how the election could skyrocket the real estate market, how it could increase, housing prices as well as interest rates, and what you can do to prepare in order to get ready for purchasing a home, whether it's former President Trump that's becomes president, or as Vice President Harris who becomes president, or any other candidate that's on the ticket becomes president. What are you going to do, or what can you do to put yourself in position? Because the last 8 elections that I know of, housing prices have increased, interest rates have increased, and there's nothing that either candidate can really do right away until they get into office and be able to get things on the books and be able to vote and push and lobby for it. If you're out there and you're watching this video, do me a huge favor, give me a thumbs up if you like the information. If you're watching and you have questions pertaining to, home buying, being a first time home buyer, your opinion, after you're watching this video, and I don't care whether you're left, right, in the middle, tell me what you think this election in your mind is going to affect home ownership. If you're watching the replay, drop it in the chat, in the comment section. Hey, I think that, purchasing a home, you need to wait until something such as or you don't think it's going to make an effect on who is president, but housing prices are still high. What can they do to help us with lowering housing prices? If you have questions pertaining to home ownership, you can drop them in the chat. If you have questions pertaining to being under contract or about financing, I'm taking questions. We also want to make sure that you understand that we have an amazing Facebook. Our Facebook group is on Facebook, and you have the ability to click it's going to be a link below. You have the ability to join the Facebook group. We post in there like 5 or 6 times a week, discussing different things as it pertains to mortgages, as it pertains to real estate. And we also ask you questions to see if you have any questions or comments about how you feel about certain trends in the real estate market. We have, testimonials. We have time where you have the ability to give your wins for the week. We ask trivia questions to test your knowledge. So it's an amazing group. Definitely, if you're new or you're watching me, you've never joined my Facebook group, it'll be a link below this video for you to be able to click. We also have an amazing newsletter. Our newsletter comes out a couple of times a week, typically no less than two. We always send out information about the housing market. We also send out information about videos that I put out that you may have missed. And speaking of videos, if you have not subscribed to my channel so you can get notifications as to when I'm going live, or you don't pay attention to the community tab, that would be a great place, because I'm trying to send out information to let you know when I'm going live, when we're going to have something special. We're currently planning a virtual home buying seminar. And we're also in that seminar, we're also going to have a session in there about credit. We're going to have a session in there pertaining to how to best put together a budget. So we're going to do some amazing things before the year ends. And you'll actually be at home for the holidays. I know it's nearly the end of October, but you can potentially be in a home by the end of the year. Now, I can't say you can be in a home by Thanksgiving if you have not started the process. If you're looking to be in a house by Christmas or by New Year's Eve, I think you can do it. You can definitely do it. Again, this video is pertaining to how the elections to skyrocket prices, and what you need to know, how you need to plan, how you need to prepare. We also have we also have an amazing library of videos that you can go back to and learn from. If you, in fact, have not went back to our channel and looked through some of the videos, there's a lot of videos and information pertaining to home ownership. We give you tips and steps about different processes, and just watching the videos will help you out tremendously. Watching those videos will allow for you to um, watching those videos will allow for you to learn from other people, first-time home buyers who have questions, learn from first-time home buyers who, have purchased and, listen to their stories and their rewards. While we're at it, I have a home buyer's journal that we have for sale. This home buyer's journal will allow for you to journal your process throughout the home buying process. It has information in here about housing, while you're house hunting, budgets, questions that you can ask how you can find your realtor, questions about finding you a lender. Also, it has information in here on contacts in terms of once you purchase the home, you can put in contact information for the HOA association, where your housing utilities are, different things. When did you last put on a roof? When you changed the hot water heater? All of those things pertaining to home ownership and what you have done to, with the house along the way. This book, the link to purchase this book will be below as well. And it's something you can hold on throughout the journey of home ownership. You can always pass it along to family who gets your house, or you can pass, certain information along to the buyer who buys your house when it's up for sale again. Again, we're discussing first-time home buyers questions, how the election are going to affect first-time home buyers, how the election is going to affect the housing market. We're definitely in a time where housing prices have kind of stabilized. They are decreasing in certain parts of the country. Other parts we're starting to see more inventory, like I mentioned before. And you want to make sure that you're in position to purchase when it's time to position. And you want to start getting things together. First thing you definitely want to do is you want to apply or at least have a consultation with some lender. My link will be below if you'd like to jump on and have a consultation with me this week. This week, I have 15 slots available for people who want to talk and discuss home ownership. And I do want to let you know this. My job is to educate you and help you in the home ownership process. I do not charge for consultation, but while all I do ask is if you to give me an opportunity to help you and your family become homeowners and help you on your journey to home ownership. So the link will be below to get on my calendar so we can schedule a one-on-one. My email will be below as well. My contact information will be below also. So a couple things I'm seeing in the market currently. Again, so back in not January, back in September 18th, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell announced that the Federal Reserve was going to decrease interest rates. And it spurred a lot of people saying, hey, interest rates dropped. A lot of agents online, hey, interest rates have dropped. However, prior to that, starting somewhere around January 31st, mortgage interest rates began to decrease on their own as well. Um, en route to the information that we had that we were going to see a drop in regular interest rates over, at the next Federal Reserve meeting, right, which was September 18th. Once interest rates dropped for the Federal Reserve, mortgage interest rates began to increase. So when mortgage interest rates were getting to increase, people started to go back in their shell and say, hey, rates were higher than they were when I applied 2 weeks ago. And that's because mortgage interest rates are not based off of the Federal Reserve or what the Federal Reserve Chairman said, right? So we do have, we need jobs a report that came out a little bit better than what they expected a couple of weeks ago. And, the Federal Reserve meets again, I believe, somewhere around November the 8th. So we want to kind of see um, where, the jobs market came, not jobs, but where inflation has come in yet and come in at, and to see if there's going to be any changes or if there's going to be another decrease in interest rates during that time period. Again, guys, I see you out there in YouTube land or wherever you're watching. If you have a question for me pertaining to home ownership, drop it below. It can be any question. Any question pertaining to home ownership. How do you feel about the current election? I gave you what my facts were, but how do you feel? Do you think that the change of guard as president, which we'll see whether it's we're not going to have the same president in January, right? So if it's, President, Trump or Vice President Harris, do you think he or she will be able to do anything to change the housing market? And what is it that you think they should do for the housing market? Right now, it's difficult. If you don't have the money or the resources, it's difficult for a buyer to purchase a home without any money. Qualifying for programs, people are in a ton of debt. People have a ton of student loan debt. There's a lot of things, right now the economy has $1.4 trillion in consumer debt. So that's a lot of money, right? So, people are increasing debt, credit card debt, personal loans, uh, buy here, cash advance loans. People's incomes are not increasing as fast as the cost of different things. So, what do you think you need? Are you waiting for the president to make a decision and change what could help the economy? How do you see the economy going? Or, are you saving and not worried about what the president, whoever's elected, does and your economy you created on your own? If you're just watching this and you just joined, go back to the beginning. I discussed how, the elections affect homeownership. The title of this video is "The Election Could Skyrocket Housing Prices and What You Need to Know." And in this video, I gave you information on what you need to know about the process, what you need to know about homeownership. I gave you information on, how to budget, how what statistics show over the last last 8 elections, and what we can look to see coming up in the near future, and how the president or whoever's elected can or cannot affect housing prices. Again, we also talked about how everyone said that they were waiting the election. Not even a lot of people said they wait for elections, or how they were going to wait for the $25,000 tax credit that was put into play by Vice President Harris. And then I've also gotten calls where people said um they have heard that the $25,000 credit wasn't enforced, which is misinformation that's I've seen out there on the market. When doing a streamlined finance, do you have to have a perfect credit to qualify? I will make all mortgage payments on time, but I ran up a few credit cards during the time. New things for the home. Gotcha. So now, doing an FHA streamline, we pull credit, right? But it's the only thing that's based on credit score is what your interest rate could be at the time, right? We're not looking at your debt. We're not looking at your income. We're looking at the mortgage payment. So you don't have to have perfect credit. We're not even looking at debt to income ratio, because in this scenario, you're just streamlining trying to get a lower interest rate so you can lower your payment, right? Or if you did a buy down, say, hey, rates are lower than what it would be based off my buy down, so I'm going to refinance down and be in a better position over the course of the time that I have the house running. So you don't have to have perfect credit. We're not looking at your debts, but you want to make sure you have a decent score. I say 640 is the sweet spot, so you can get a decent interest rate. And people say, oh, well, they're not looking at your score, but they're looking at your mortgage score because they have to make sure in your mortgage report to make sure you make payments on time, to make sure you haven't missed any payments at a time in the last 12 months. You don't have to have the house for 12 months. So if you had the house for 210 days and made 6 on-time payments to your mortgage, you'll be in good position. So no, you don't have to have perfect credit. That's a great question. So eh, there's different types of FHA refinances. There's FHA streamlined refinance that Acacia mentioned. There is the rate and term refinance where you have a rate and term refinance and you're looking to get a lower interest rate. And then you have the cash out refinance for FHA. Now, the streamline does not involve an appraisal. The rate and term refinance does involve an appraisal, and there's limited cash that you can get out of the house, meaning you can't get back more than I believe it's $500 or 2,000. I have to double check. I'm sorry. Cash out refinance, there is an appraisal involved, and you can get cash out. You can get cash out of the home to use, and sometimes with a cash out refinance, people aren't necessarily refinancing to get a lower interest rate. They could be refinancing to consolidate some debt. And by consolidating debt, okay, I'm looking at my mortgage payment. Well, my mortgage payment goes from, let's say in this example, my mortgage payment is going from 2,000 to $2,200. However, I just saved myself $1,500 a month by paying off debt that I have, credit card bills, personal debt that I can ran up. So even though, yes, the goal is to refinance and get a lower interest rate, you also may save yourself money. So lower interest rate could help you save money, right? But you also want to look at, okay, can I pay off this debt and have no debt other than what I have for my mortgage? And I've done that for clients. In some cases, the interest rate didn't go up. In some cases, it was higher than what they had, but over the combination of what they had for debt, they got rid of a ton of additional debt. So now they only have their mortgage payment. And the great part of that is, okay, I refinance today. I had a slightly higher rate than I had before, but I got rid of all of my debt. Over the course of the next 7 months to a year, if interest rates decrease, you can refinance and do a streamlined refinance and get that lower interest rate. Now, I'm not telling you to refinance and get a higher interest rate just to get higher interest rate, but you can refinance to pay off some debt. And then when interest rates drop, you can refinance and do a streamline, such as she mentioned, to get a lower interest rate. And then, yes, you refinance multiple times, but you put yourself in a better position. There is no limit on how many times you can refinance. Now, I'm not telling you to refinance every year because you may not have the equity and it may not put you in position. I'm also saying, hey, if you can refinance and pay off some debt, it's going to cost you in a cash out refinance, right? So what you need to look at is, hey, if I'm refinancing this debt, am I going to be in my house over the next 3 to 5 years? If the answer is yes, then definitely refinance. There are times when it makes sense to refinance if you're only going to be in a year or so, but you want to make sure you're looking at the cost of what it takes for that refinance because there is a cost. On the FHA Streamline, typically when you come to closing, we look to get you to come to closing with 1 or 2 months of your current mortgage payment, right? So that, because those fees still involved. You still have attorney's fee, you still have prorations for taxes and insurance. So there's different fees that are involved in that as well, right? When you do a return refinance, that those fees that you're looking to that you're going to be charged can be rolled into the loan if the equity is there. And that's where the appraisal comes into play because it allows for you to see what equity you have in your home, and you have the ability to roll that cost in. So typically on a return refinance, you pay, but you don't bring money out of pocket. On a streamline, you typically bring money, but it's typically if done properly, it has to be a specific time of the month that you time it so that if you have November payment and you're refinancing, instead of making your November mortgage payment to your mortgage company, you bring that to closing and close out on your home. So And just understand after you refinance, let's say you refinance in November, there's a possible you're definitely going to skip December and you're paying January, and then depending on timing and how things work out for you, you could potentially skip December and January and make your first payment in February. That's not happen for everybody, but it is a possibility. And you can refinance with FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional. You can refinance for all four of those. And if you have a bank statement loan or a DSCR loan because you're purchasing an investment property, you have the ability to refinance with those as well. So refinancing is an option. You definitely have, on the land, you have to have some equity in your property. And what streamlines, and I'll just be honest with you, it doesn't always make sense for you to refinance if you've been in your home fairly new, but each person is different, each part of the country is different. But I would at least attempt to see if I can do it and decide if it makes sense for you to bring those funds to closing. Again, guys, if you're just joining, we're talking about how the election could skyrocket mortgage profit. I mean, how many prices, and what you need to do or what you need to know to prepare. If you have any questions pertaining to home ownership, being a first-time home buyer, drop your question. If you got questions about refinancing, drop your question. If you're a second-time home buyer and you want to know, hey, I'm looking to sell my home, what do I need to do to qualify? That's a conversation we can have as well. Also, this week I am taking 15 people for free consultations in order to talk about the process of purchasing a home. My Calendly link will be below where you can contact me, get on my schedule, provide a few questions that you have, and we can discuss how we can take you from a renter to a homeowner. I'm also taking 10 slots for people who are looking to refinance looking to refinance the purchase of home, excuse me, to refinance and get a lower payment or to do some debt consolidation. Sorry, guys. And if you are looking for a second option in terms of, hey, I'm under contract, however, I want to see if I can get a better deal, I'm also taking calls for that as well. Right now, I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible. We've had some great success stories over the last couple of months. We recently helped a veteran move from Mississippi to Warner Robins, Georgia. His loan, he purchased a new construction home where I was able to do the financing. He and his wife were able to relocate closer to his home, where he was, born at. And also, it was a loan that was turned down a few times by a couple of different lenders, and they weren't able to do it. And my team and I were able to fix it. Also have, some people looking to refinance and figure out, hey, I need to consolidate some debt, save some money on that front of paying, out on higher interest rates, credit cards, 20, 30%, personal loans, 10, 15, 20%, and how they can save money. So my goal is always to help someone if you're looking, and I don't talk about it very often. However, if you're looking to be an investor and buy some investment property, let's schedule a call and have a conversation. Because while there's a lot of inventory out there, a lot of inventory out there are some deals to be had. There's some opportunity to take advantage of. So definitely reach out to me if you have questions pertaining to purchasing an investment property. If you're looking for a second home, reach out to me. I can help you with all those options. Definitely. If you're just joining, we're going to have links to our Facebook group. We're going to have a link to our newsletter. Do me a huge favor. I'm trying to grow the newsletter so I can get in contact with my squad and my team, and make sure that we have that you guys have the up to date best information. Also, if you have so if you miss a live, so for instance, the people who aren't watching live because they couldn't or didn't get notifications, if they're on the mailing list, they get the email saying, hey, Kevin Jefferson, the People's Center went live yesterday. Click here for the video. So you can, you're never going to miss a video. Even if you miss it, we'll let you know. I understand sometimes you don't get notifications from um, YouTube, but my being a part of the newsletter will allow for you to gain insight and information, but it also allows you to become aware of what videos came out in the most recent. And then sometimes we show videos that we had from the past that we thought are, work for you now. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe, help us get out in the YouTube algorithm. Do us a huge favor and give us a thumbs up. And I'm going to hear some feedback. Talk to me in the chat, talk to me in the comments, and let me know how you feel about this election. How do you think things will change if we have a new president? Because either way, we have a new president. Vice President Harris has not been president since he can only do so much. Former President Trump was president. He hasn't been for 4 years, so there's things that he's looking to implement and do. To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are affiliated with. Just vote. Go out and vote. Again, like I said, it's not a political channel, but I like to see people's insight and thoughts on how they think the president can help or hurt, home ownership. And what would you like to see the president do? What you had the opportunity to sit down and talk to whichever candidate or whoever becomes president, what are some things you would ask him or her to do in terms of the economy and home ownership? Listen, I think home ownership is great. I think there's a time and place for people to be able to rent. I think there's also a time and place where it makes sense to become a homeowner. If you're looking to become a homeowner and you don't know where to start, or you're not getting the answers or information that you need, the link will be below to contact me. I'm working with 15 people this week who are looking to be first-time home buyers. I have slots for 10 people who are looking to refinance their home, whether it's now or get in position to refinance in the next couple of months. And then I'm also taking 10 people who are currently under contract, who are looking to potentially get a second opinion. And it's just it's a conversation with me. And again, we also have my home ownerships guide. The link will be below. Hey guys, if you're out there and you don't have any more questions, I'm gonna wrap up the live. But I do want to thank everyone for attending. If you have questions and you're watching the replay, I respond. I view my chat. And if you want to get in contact with me, all my contact information will be below. My email, my calendar link, so you can get on a call with me. And my goal is to help you figure out how you can become a homeowner, whether it's now or next month or in 6 months. You're going to need a place to live, and I think that you should at least explore the opportunity of becoming a homeowner. With that being said, I don't see any questions. This is Kevin Jefferson, the People's Lender. Thank you and have a great night.